in this video, I want to talk about the heartbreaking story of Derek's mom's passing. So I have to give credit to the detectives on Reddit for this find. So Derek's sister said on social media that her and her siblings ended up losing their mother, and it was on an episode of the first 48. And Derek did confirm that this was his mother. So I was able to find this episode, and a lot of people were saying it was on season 15, episode 8 of the first 48. When I found it on Amazon, it's actually labeled under season 14, episode 3. So on the episode, they show Derek's siblings and they show Derek's sister, who we saw in this last episode of Love After Lockup. There's a throwback of her, and here's her from the last episode. And I instantly recognized her. So back in 2012, a Cleveland woman was murdered, and this is Derek and his sister's mother. She's a very beautiful woman. She was only 41 years old, and she was gunned down on her 41st birthday outside of a bar at 2 a.m. So this is an article I found about the situation. It says, in Cleveland, Ohio, 2 men are in custody after an argument led to a fatal shooting of a 41-year-old woman early Saturday, police said. Crystal Pinkins of East Cleveland was sitting in a car with 2 other women outside the VIP lounge at East 93rd Street and Mount Auburn Avenue when she got into an argument with 2 men about 2 a.m., witnesses told police. One of the men went to another vehicle, returned with a handgun, and he shot her. So the driver of the car that Derek's mom was in, they drove away and they called the police. So when the police got to the vehicle, the victim, which was Derek's mom, was pronounced dead at the scene. So an off-duty Cleveland police officer saw the suspects and their vehicle minutes later at East 89th Street and Buckeye Road. The police tracked them to West Fifth Street and Marquardt Avenue, where both men were arrested. Their names were not released because charges have not been filed. This is an older article though, so I have all the updates for you guys. And this is also Derek's mom's obituary. She was born in August of 1972. She passed away on August 17th of 2013. So on the first 48, the detectives, they sit down with Derek's mom's friend who is with her that night, and they try to figure out why the shooters decided to start opening fire. So her friend said that they ended up going to the bar to celebrate Derek's mom's birthday. So Derek's mom's friend told the detectives that they decided that they wanted to go to the car after about an hour and a half at the bar, and they decided to pull it to the front of the bar. And so while they're driving the car, they started driving really slow, and Derek's mom opened up the passenger door and started pouring out her drink. And then Derek's mom's friend recognized that one of his friends was at the bar named Juice, and they started talking. And then they said that there's this dude sitting in a car and his music was blaring really loud. And so then her friend said as soon as Derek's mom shut the door and they started pulling off, they said this dude started shooting at the car. And so when detectives asked Derek's mom's friend if they had gotten into any arguments that night with anyone that would have caused this whole shooting, the friend of Derek's mom said no, but the articles say different. They say that the witnesses say they saw Derek's mom and friend fighting with 2 men that night. And Derek's mom's friend said that they didn't know the dude that started shooting at them, and he was actually shocked when his car was getting shot up because he said he felt like there was no reason for them to get shot at. So the shooter was driving a black Magnum. So the detectives put out a bolo for the black Magnum with the description of the 2 suspects, and only 30 minutes after putting the bolo out for the police to be on the watch, the detectives, they suddenly get a call, and the police have just stopped a black Dodge Magnum only a few miles away from the crime scene, and the 2 people in the car matched the description perfectly of the suspects that they were looking for. So this all went down only 6 hours after Derek's mom was found deceased. They already had 2 potential suspects. So the driver of the car matched the description of the suspect, and he was wearing a white shirt like he was seen wearing in the security camera footage, because they got the security camera footage from the bar parking lot. And so he was a 28-year-old male who had passed arrest for burglary, and then the 29-year-old passenger had priors for robbery and carrying a weapon. So they showed this security camera footage, and when the shooter pulled out the gun and put it back up, he ended up putting it under the hood of the car and just hid the gun in there, put the hood back down, and jumped in the car. So when the police pulled over the car, they ended up popping up the hood, And lo and behold, there's a 9mm inside the hood of the car, and that's the same type of caliber that was used in the shooting. So they took the suspects down to the station. They started questioning the guy who was in the black shirt at the shooting, which was the passenger riding around with the shooter. And he says that he was at the bar, and all of a sudden the bar closed down for the night, and he just came outside. They're going to their car, and he says he all of a sudden started seeing bullets flying through the air, and he just started running down the street because he was scared of getting shot. And he even undid his jacket and showed where he had scars from being shot 6 times in the chest in the past. And so when they asked him if he saw who did the shooting, he claims he has no idea because he wasn't looking for that type of stuff. He was just trying to focus on saving his own life. So then the detective was like, look, cut the BS. We already know what went down because we got all the security camera footage from the bar, and all the detectives and the lieutenant have watched it. And they even brought an officer inside the interrogation room holding a tablet with the security camera footage. And the guy said he didn't want to talk, and they told him that he's going to go down for aggravated murder. And he's like, well, how the hell am I going to go down for it when I'm not even the one who pulled the trigger? And they said, well, because you left with him. Even after it happened, you jumped in the car with him and drove off. And then the shooter, they finally bring him in for questioning. So the shooter claims that him and his buddy, they just went to the bar, they're enjoying themselves, having some drinks, and he tried to play dumb and act like that's all they were doing until the detectives told him that they had it all on camera and they already knew what was up. And he said, you don't remember kicking the door shut? So they show security camera footage of Derek's mom and her friend. They pull up right next to these dudes, and the shooter said they were talking crazy to him. And next thing you know, when Derek's mom started to open the door on the passenger side, which remember, her friend told the detectives earlier on in the interrogation that she opened up her car door when they're going slow to pour out some drink. So the shooter said that she opened her door and she was talking crazy to the shooter and his friend. So next thing you know, the shooter went up and kicked the door shut. And then they started to drive off. And when they started to drive off, he started shooting at Derek's mom and her friend. And he tried claiming to the detectives that he only shot once, but the detectives quickly shut that down. They ended up pulling up security camera footage and showing him, and it shows him literally shooting multiple rounds into the passenger side of the car where Derek's mom was sitting. And so when the detective asked the shooter, why did he do this? He said he couldn't tell you why, but he said that he wasn't trying to kill her. He was just trying to shock her. And he said they pulled up swinging and he just reacted. So then after they shot Derek's mom, they went back to the bar and then they beat up 2 random men sitting in front of the bar. And when the shooter was asked, why'd you do that? He said once again, I couldn't even tell you. Like, the dude was just so drunk, he has no idea and just making stupid, irrational decisions and senseless crimes. So thank God for the security camera footage and for the witnesses, because only 9 hours after Derek's mother was found deceased, the detectives finally closed the case. They pressed charges on the shooter and his friend who was with him that night. So the shooter, his name was Drayshawn Congress, and he ended up pleading guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison, but he's constantly been trying to appeal the court's decision. Like, he just was putting in another appeal in 2018. I found another appeal from 2015, and his friend was with him that night and drove away in the car with him, Terrence Bird. He ended up pleading guilty to felonious assault, and he was sentenced to 14 years in prison. And this happened 12 years ago. So his friend should be getting out of prison sometime in the next few years. And then they showed a little memorial service the family had 8 months after Derek's mother's passing. And they said that Derek's mother was the light of the family, and things haven't been the same since she was gone. They also showed Derek's grandmother, who was his mom's mom, and she said things will never be the same, and she's going to make sure she's there for the kids now. And they showed all Derek's siblings, and they're all in tears and absolutely heartbroken. It was just so sad to see. So Derek has 5 other siblings, and they showed 2 of his brothers and 2 of his sisters on the episode, and a lot of his extended family. And this just breaks my heart to know that Derek and his siblings will never have a mother again, because it's such a senseless killing. It was just so unnecessary and dumb, and my heart goes out to Derek and his family. And I can definitely understand even more why his siblings have stepped up to try to really attempt to be there for Derek after his release. since his mother is no longer here to be able to be here for him. So rest in peace to Crystal Pinkins, who is Derek and his siblings' mother. And I looked at her old social media, like her old Twitter and Facebook before she passed away, and it's just so sad looking at all that, because she really is a positive light, like her family said. And she was a manager of a company called Magnificent Window Coverings, and she loved her children dearly. She was always talking about how much she loved her children, and this is just such a tragic story, and it's definitely a crossover I did not see coming. But I just want to share that with you guys. I'm sure we'll hear Derek talk more about it as his season goes on. He starts to open up more. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.